Hi everybody, welcome to Lincoln Children's Zoo's Keeper Corner. My name is JoHanna and I am here with a very special guest today. This is Taz, and Taz is a bird called a tawny frogmouth. Kind of a strange name for a bird. When a lot of people see a tawny frogmouth, the first thing they think of is, oh, it's an owl, which you're almost right. He looks a lot like an owl, but he's actually not. Of course, those big eyes make him look very much like an owl, and sort of the pattern of his feathers and the shape of his body. And those big eyes, just like owls, mean that he's nocturnal. So he is actually active in the nighttime, usually not the daytime. Those big eyes help him to see in the dark, take in all that extra light so that he can see really, really well with very little light available to him. But tawny frogmouths, they are not owls because they're not birds of prey. Some of the differences are that his feet aren't very strong. Birds of prey or raptors have really strong feet because that's how they catch their food. His feet are just for perching, those little toes. You can see his little nails. They're not very sharp. I just have him standing on my hand, on my bare skin. He's not gripping really hard. His nails aren't poking or anything. Instead, when he wants to catch food, he's going to use that big beak of his, kind of why they're called frog mouths. So I have a little worm. We'll see if I can get him to open his beak and show you just how big that mouth is. Look at that. Good job, Taz. So that big, wide mouth is how he catches his food. And they eat a lot of bugs in the wild. That's why I gave him a little worm. That big, wide mouth is kind of like a big old fly trap. In fact, those whiskery feathers that look kind of like whiskers, that's how they function. Sometimes when they're looking for food, they'll sit there with their beak wide open and wait until a fly or other bug kind of goes by and brushes those feathers. And when they feel that, that's how they know to snap their beak shut and catch that fly or whatever bug, insect flew by in their beak. Of course, at the zoo, feeding him only flies or only worms, we'd have to feed him quite a lot every day. So we feed him other bits of meat as well, since they are carnivores. So you can see that he is kind of standing pretty thin. He's normally, he can be a lot more fluffy, but normally when he gets nervous, or like right now, he's not so sure about the camera. It's been a while since he's been in front of the camera. They can make themselves look like a twig. So what they do is they make themselves really tall and skinny when they're sitting on a tree branch, and the coloration of their feathers helps them blend in with the bark really, really well, and they look like another twig or another branch just sticking off of the tree, and it helps them avoid predators or other animals that might want to have Taz for his tasty snack, which we don't want. So he's very good at protecting himself and making sure that he is unseen by anything that he thinks might be a little scary. But tawny frogmouths are native to Australia. So these are an Australian species of bird. If you guys have watched our other Keeper Corner videos, you guys might have met another Australian bird we have here, the kookaburra. Banjo or kookaburra is also from Australia, but banjo is active during the daytime, and like I said, Taz is active during the nighttime. At Lincoln Children's Zoo, if you've ever been in our walk-through aviary, we do have some frogmouths in there. They get pretty hard to spot though, because being nocturnal birds, they don't move around a lot during the daytime. So they like to sit up high and kind of nap during the day. So they sit up high in branches, and that camouflage, even if they're not like kind of thin and twig-shaped, is still pretty good camouflage, and they can still be pretty darn hard to spot. Frogmouths are super fun. They do tend to stay together in pairs, mate. We call it mating for life, but really mating for life isn't kind of what we think of it as. So when I say that tawny frogmouths mate for life, I mean that a male and female tawny frogmouth will stay together as long as it's working, as long as they're successfully, doing the right courtship behaviors with each other, as long as maybe they have successful eggs and babies, then they'll stay together. Sometimes it just doesn't work out, and then they go find another mate, and that's okay. That's just life, right? That's just being a bird, being a tawny frogmouth. But tawny frogmouths have lots of different types of feathers, just like all birds do. Kind of a feather is a feather is a feather, right? Actually wrong. There's lots of different types of feathers on birds. His feathers are a little bit different than a lot of other birds. His feathers are a little bit, I guess I'll say softer than other birds because that helps him hide better, with a little better camouflage. But there are different types of feathers. So the feathers, the kind of whisker-like feathers on his beak, are very, very different from the feathers on his wings or even just on his body. So different feathers have different purposes. Those long, skinny feathers we already talked about act like whiskers, but his wing feathers, of course, help him fly. So wing feathers, I can't make him spread his wings, so I can't really show you very well, but wing feathers are actually shaped differently than a lot of other feathers. They're a little bit asymmetrical, meaning there's more on one side of the feather shaft than on the other side. And that helps shape the feather a little bit, and the whole wing even, kind of like an airfoil, where the air flows faster over the top than it does over the bottom, which provides lift in order to help these guys fly successfully and stay in the air. So some of the other feathers just on his body are a little more symmetrical, where they're kind of even on either side of the feather shaft. And then, of course, the tail feathers that he has are usually longer and stiffer because those help act like a rudder when he flies. So when birds are in flight, they use their tail to actually help them steer. That means if they want to turn a corner really fast, they'll actually move their tail so that the air pushes on one side of their tail to help turn them, kind of like a rudder on a boat. But Taz is pretty special to us here at Lincoln Children's Zoo. He was hand-raised by a couple of the keepers. That's why he's comfortable sitting on my hand. I don't do this with all of our birds, of course, but he's pretty comfortable with me. He's gotten to know me really well, so he's comfortable sitting on my hand and hopping to it for snacks or a treat. But he, of course, is very, very cute, and I really wanted to share him with you guys today because Tawny frogmouths are a bird that not everybody kind of notices here at the zoo, and I think they are just too amazing to miss. So thank you guys so much for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed meeting Taz, and don't forget to check below in the comments for today's activity. Thank you. See you next time.